Hello, yogis. This is Mike again today. Hi. And yeah, we're going to work today. Just seeing the focus there. We're going to work today on three things. We're going to work on alignment. Three things around alignment. Alignment of your feet in Tadasana, mountain pose. We're going to work on alignment of warrior one and what that feels like. And we're going to work on the alignment and different options in the lateral bend to the right and to the left, and see what it feels like with different options. So this will be a short video, but let's get started just by warming up our spine and our muscles. So we're going to come onto our mat in a tabletop position with your wrists directly below your shoulders, knees under your hips. On an inhale, drop your belly toward the floor. And then on an exhale, raise your back like a cat toward the ceiling. Inhale, drop your belly toward the floor. Pull your hands toward your knees horizontally. On an exhale, the back comes toward the ceiling. Push your hands away from your knees. Little cat-cow. Get the spine warmed up today, if it's not already. So feel what it feels like in your body. Start to learn, like on an inhale, your belly comes down. What does your lower belly feel like, right above the hips? What does that feel like when your belly is down? And when you come up, where do you feel it when you come up for the stretch? Do you feel it in your back ribs, your shoulders? Do it one more time. That's called interoception, is feeling what's going on inside your body. Okay, come to neutral tabletop, just look over your left shoulder to your left ankle. That right hip goes out to the side. Wag the tail, look over your right shoulder to your right ankle. Left hip goes out to the side. And just wag back and forth. Do a little wag back and forth. At your own speed, wherever you like. Then come to neutral tabletop. Let's just do some belly rolls. So you combine this wag with the cat-cow. Maybe we'll call it swag. And then go the other way. Just a belly roll. I don't know why they call it belly roll either, but anyway. Then walk your hands out about a foot in front of your mat. Come in the puppy dog pose, push your hips back. Maybe your forehead comes down onto the mat. You can kind of roll the forehead to the right and to the left, but your elbows stay up. And push your hips back. Get traction in those armpits. And then walk the hands over to the left corner of your mat. Plant both hands, left corner. Push that right hip back. Stretch into the right side body. And this one, you want a big inhale into the right side. It's the lungs, it's the inhale that's doing the benefit for this pose. And then slowly walk your hands over to the right corner of your mat. Push that left hip back. Breathe into that left lung, nice and deep. And then come back up in the tabletop position. We're going to do a little twist, thread the needle. You take your right arm, come underneath your left, come down onto your right shoulder, and then stack your left on top of your right. Little tabletop twist. And then bring that left arm in, push yourself back up, tabletop. Take your left arm and pick it up and come underneath your right, come down onto that left shoulder. Walk that right arm out, stack your right shoulder on top of your left. Walk that right hand in, come back up to neutral tabletop. Now, we're just going to loosen up our ankles a little bit. Take that right foot out behind you. Push into your, on your toes. Push into that calf. Stretch that calf. Bring the back of the knee right toward the ceiling. Really engage the thigh, engage the quad as we stretch that Achilles tendon. And then inhale. On an exhale, you're going to bring that knee right into the chest, right between the hands. And then take it back out. This time take it back out to where it's elevated about the height of your hip. Then take that leg out to the side. Just as much as you feel like. Bring it back in. Now, we're going to rotate our hips. Stack your right hip on top of your left to the extent you can. And then bring it back down to where the toes pointing toward the mat. Let's do that one more time. We're going to rotate, stack our right hip on top of our left. That way our toes rotate out to the side. And then we come back down. And you're going to bring that knee right in between the hands again. Pull her in. Hold it. And then come back in, set that knee down on your tabletop. Now, take the left leg out behind you. Plant your toes. Push back. Stretch the Achilles tendon. Stretch the calf. Push the back of your knee right toward the ceiling. Engage your thigh. Said all that pretty fast, but plant your toes. The back of your knee goes right toward the ceiling. That means straighten your leg out and engage that thigh. When you engage that thigh, it helps to straighten that leg out. And then bring that knee right in between the hands. Hold it. And then extend out to where it's about as high as your hip behind you. Bring it out to the side, just as much as you like. We're just warming up the hip muscles. Bring it back in the center. This time we're going to stack our left hip on top of our right. The toe rotates out to the side. I'm dorsiflexing my toes back toward my knee. It helps to engage my calf. My thigh muscles engage. My legs nice and straight. Rotate your hip back down to where your toe points toward the ground. Stack it again. Rotate your hip to where your left hip comes up on top of your right hip. Toes out to the side. Rotate that back down to where your toe points to the mat. Bring that knee right in between the hands. And then plant that knee. Good. Now, come back in for a child's pose. Put your forehead on the mat or on your hands. Maybe you want to do a little movement with your hips. Side to side. And then, now we're going to come into camel pose. And the way to do this is when you're in child's pose, it kind of depends on your alignment of your body, but the way I do it, from child's pose, I just rotate forward on top of my head to where my thighs are vertical. So my thighs are vertical, and I've got some weight on top of my head, and the rest of the weight on my hands and my knees. So this is an inversion. It's called camel. Or sorry, it's called rabbit pose.
Not the wrong animal, it's called a rabbit. I don't know the Sanskrit name. And just hang out here for a second. It's good to stay in inversion for at least 5 breaths. Five breaths just gives you enough time, about 18, 20 seconds to for your muscles to realize, hey, I'm in this position, I can relax, I'm not going to have to hurry up and move to another position, so I'll just relax and chill out. And then come back into child's pose again. Rest there for a minute, for a moment. Take a couple breaths, maybe rotate your forehead back and forth on the mat. And then slowly push yourself back up into tabletop position. We're going to slowly come up, but with an inversion where the blood goes to your head, we just want to slowly come up. Come back to Virasana pose, hero pose. And then we're going to slowly make our way to standing. Now I'm going to rotate my mat to be aligned with the camera. Okay, here we go. So now I want to do some alignment. Some alignment awareness, really. And the alignment awareness I want to do is around understanding not necessarily what I'm telling you to do or asking you to do. It's really understanding what your body wants to or what your body doesn't want to do. So interoception is understanding, feeling, and being aware of what's going on inside your own body. Proprioception is where's your body in space. So like at night, if you get up and walk in the dark, you can walk around in the dark, usually even with your eyes closed, if you walk to the bathroom or something, because you know where your body is in space. Interoception is what's going on inside your body, intero. So, so we're going to do 3 things today. We're going to start off with mountain pose. And in mountain pose, the normal, the normal instruction for alignment in mountain pose starts with the feet. And a lot of times they'll say, you know, put weight on the front, on the back, on the outside, the inside, and have balance between the ball of your feet and your heel. And that's all great because you do want to have balance across the bottom of your foot. What I'm going to talk about today is another cue that is often used is your feet directly underneath your hips. That's good because that's where your weight is carried, directly from your hips straight down. So if you take your fingers, you can feel the 2 little hip points called hip pointers right on the very front top of your hip. And you can put your fingers there and then just look down. Are my feet directly underneath my hips? That way you'll know that if the weight is being carried straight through from your hips to your femur and down through your legs. But the alignment I want to get to is the alignment of your feet. And very often it is discussed to put your second toe directly forward to the short end of your mat. And for a lot of people that works just fine. For some people, and you'll notice this when you go for a walk with you or your friend or whoever, look at your feet, look at their feet, without trying to adjust where your feet are. Do you walk with your feet directly forward all the time? Or do you walk with your toes out and your heels closer? Or sometimes people walk with their toes closer and their heels apart. I went for a hike the other day, and one of the people in the hike was pigeon toe. They walk with their toes closer than their heels. most people, me included, really enjoy a more normal stance is where my toes are a little bit wider than my heels. And so when I'm just standing around, I notice I look down at my feet and my toes are a little bit wider than my heels. So that's my normal stance. That's where my bones like to align. And that's the way I grew up from a little bitty kid. And that's just the way my bones have grown. That's the alignment that feels most comfortable to me. So what I would suggest is in mountain pose, and that could be, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to measure this too. You can stand with your hips square to the short edge of your mat. That's number one. You can look down if you have shorts on, or if you pull your pants up to where your kneecaps are at, and you look down. Which way? Don't worry about your feet, but which way are your knees pointing? So if you have your second toe directly forward, which way are your kneecaps pointing? Put your feet now where they're most comfortable, and which way your kneecaps pointing. And then exaggerate it, maybe really widen your feet, which way your kneecaps pointing. So you can kind of look at, square your hips, and then where do your knees like to point? And so some people have their femurs are straight to where their kneecaps point forward when they're in a comfortable position. And then they have a rotation of their tibia and fibula between the bone below their knee to their ankle, which may then move their foot out. So your kneecap could be straight in alignment. You think, okay, well, I need to have my foot in alignment. But there could be a rotation of your tibia and fibula down here that allows your leg to come out. So a lot of different ways to measure this, but basically all this anatomical science is cool. I think it's really cool because I'm an engineer, but really it's what feels best to you. So what I would suggest in the future in your alignment for mountain pose Tadasana, stand where your feet feel comfortable. So that's the one. So now we're going to be in Tadasana, stand Tadasana, wherever your feet feel comfortable. And then we're going to come into a mountain pose, Tadasana. The way I like to teach this is engage your thigh muscles. And when you engage your thigh muscles, now not everybody can do this, but when I engage my thigh muscle, my kneecap comes upward. And you can see this on yourself or your friends. Not everybody can do this. You can engage your thigh muscle, maybe your kneecap doesn't move. But that's how you can look at that. So when you engage your thigh muscle, think about interoception. Where's my kneecap going? Now you can even feel it. Where's your kneecap going? Engage your thighs. Now engage your butt muscle, your glutes. Gluteus maximus, minimus, quadratus laborum, piriformis, all these muscles in your backside. So my thighs are engaged, my glutes are engaged. What that does, it helps to set the hips in neutral position. So by neutral, I mean I'm not tipped forward to where I have a big bend in my lower back. My hips now are anteriorly rotated. So the top of my hips going forward, the bottom of my hips going backwards. Or posterior rotation of the hips is when the top of my hips go back, the bottom of my hips come forward, and I'm standing here. And you see people like this sometimes standing around in a slouch position. So this is posterior rotation. Anterior, posterior. So you can play around with that. Come back into Tadasana. Your feet, engage your thighs, engage your glutes. That sets the hips just in a neutral position to where when you engage these muscles, your hips come in neutral to where the alignment of the weight of your torso and the alignment of your torso is directly over your hips, your femurs, your knee, your ankle. The weight carries straight down so that you don't have a big bend and the weight's kind of going around this bend and trying to get down, or you're like this and the weight's trying to, come up. And so my weight on my torso here is to the back of my hips, back of my knees. That's not alignment. We want alignment straight down from our sides. And why do we want that? Because that's what allows the bones to carry your weight. Otherwise, your muscles have to carry the weight, and your ligaments have to carry the weight, your tendons have to carry the weight, and your bones are just there for the ride. So let your bones do the work. Your back will feel better, your legs will feel better, your sciatica will feel better, most likely, if you have proper alignment. So, Tadasana again. Now, third thing is, my hips are in line. Bring your lower ribs just down, the front of your lower ribs down just a little bit. What happens with a lot of tendencies is when you get in this position, you want to bring your shoulders back to spread the collarbones. That's okay. But when we do that, we raise our heart up, and all of a sudden, the alignment we had when we engage, set. Now, if I go like this, the alignment we had, all of a sudden, you can see my back. Nice alignment. All of a sudden, I raise my chest. My alignment goes crazy because I anteriorly rotate my hips to get my chest up, to get my heart up. There's a lot of reasons we have been educated to do that our whole lives in school and whatnot. Has taught us, military taught us, get your chest up. But that's not proper alignment. So engage, hips. Now bring your lower ribs down just to where you feel your abdominals engage, interoception. Just let your abdominals engage maybe 10 or 20%. You're not clenching your abs, because if you do that, if you clench your abs, then you want to bend forward. So we don't want to clench our abs. Just a little bit, 5 or 10% is fine. And you'll feel it when your ribs come down. You'll feel right at that point. If you're, and you may have to work on this to be able to feel it, but practice it, feel it, and see if you can get to where you can actually feel what's going on there. Okay, engage, ribs down a little bit. Now shoulders up, back, and down. That opens the collarbones. Now check your ribs again. Bring your ribs down, and then lastly your chin parallel with the floor, back toward the back of the mat a little bit. That helps to elongate the back of the neck, brings the crown of the head a little bit higher, and that is mountain pose. Mountain pose with whatever alignment for your feet you like. Okay, now we're in mountain pose. Now we're going to do a lateral bend. So take your hands, interlace your fingers, or let's not interlace fingers this time. Forget that. Shake that out. Get that out of your mind. Get that out of your body. Just take your hands parallel with your shoulders, fingers outstretched, hands directly overhead. Okay, now keep your knees straight, your legs straight. You can have a micro bend if you're worried about hyperextending. Keep your legs straight, lateral bend one way. Now I'm going to the right, you can go to the left. Now feel your right side. If you're bending to the right, feel your right side and your left side. Which is stretching, which is compressing. Come up and over and lateral bend to the other side. Where do you feel the stretch in your outside body? Outside is the side you're leaning away from. So your outside body is the side of your body you're leaning away from. I'm leaning to the left. Outside is my right side body. To me, I feel it kind of in the ribs, but it's kind of distributed throughout the rib cage, from my shoulder down to my lower ribs. Now come back up in the center. This time we're going to come over to the right side, and this time I'm going to bend my right knee. So Just relax that right knee. Just let that leg relax. Carry your weight on the outside, and then come into that lateral bend. Come in, maybe, to me, I can get a little bit more bend, and for me, now I feel it right in my hip. As I stick that hip out, my left hip out to the side. I'm leaning to the right, my left hip goes out to the side. Now the stretch has come down from my ribs down into more toward my hip. Isn't that interesting? Just by bending your inside knee. Come back up, and we're going to come over to the other side. I'm leaning to the left this time. I'm bending my left knee. My right leg is straight. My right leg is straight. I'm carrying the weight to the outside, and I feel that stretch right here in the outside of that hip. So, if you want to have a hip stretch, this is a good way to do it. You can get a lateral bend, you can get some stretch through your ribs, but here's a good way to stretch that hip, just by bending your inside knee. Come back up. Amanda Montalban taught me this years ago. Now we come over, I'm coming to the right side. This time I'm going to bend my outside knee, so I'm leaning to the right, my right leg is straight, I'm bending my outside leg. My outside knee now is just bent, loose. Now I really feel that stretch in my upper ribs. It has really moved the focus of that stretch right into my upper rib area, almost up into my shoulder area. So it's moved it 2 feet from my hip up to my ribs. Come up in the center again, lateral bend to the left. This time my inside leg stays straight. I'm going to bend my outside knee. So I'm leaning to the left, my right knee is bent. So I'm not carrying any weight on my right. My weight is just on my left. And where do I feel this stretch? On this side, it's a little bit different because now I'm feeling it kind of through a lot of length of this side. Maybe a little bit more toward the top, toward the shoulder. If I really start thinking about where I'm feeling it. Interoception, if I really get into where am I feeling this in my body? And then you can come up and one more time to the right. Now, this time we're going to rotate our head. Just keep both knees straight. Rotate your upper shoulder more down toward the floor. And then more toward the ceiling. And where do you feel it? More toward the floor, you're stretching your upper back. More toward the ceiling, more into your chest. Come up and over for one last time. Knees straight this time. Rotate your upper shoulder kind of toward the floor a little bit. And then come back up. Rotate your upper shoulder more toward the ceiling to where now your gaze is more toward the ceiling. And then come back up. Clasp your hands together and bring your hands right behind your head to the back of your neck. Hands, they're not clasped together. My palms are just touching each other in like a prayer pose. This is really stretching the tricep muscles, and then hands overhead down the heart center, Anjali Mudra. And then you can shake that all out. Okay, we're going to do one final pose, Warrior One. We're going to check alignment of Warrior One. Warrior One, I've studied this pose a lot through a lot of different instructors, both in person and reading about it in magazines and also online because I'm interested. I go to yoga classes, or I used to go to yoga classes before the pandemic hit, but I look around, the teacher will say, okay, everybody, let's do Warrior One. We're doing Warrior One. And I look around and man, there's as many people in the room are all doing a different alignment of Warrior One. So I just want to review some of those alignments here today. So Warrior One, our front leg comes forward. I'm going to teach first the alignment that I like to use. So my left leg comes forward, my back leg comes back, but not very far back, and they're about hip width apart. So just like you're standing in Tadasana, I don't come in behind like I'm skiing or balancing. It's just my right foot then comes straight back, still in the hip width alignment. My front knee is directly over my front foot, and you'll notice my back foot is almost straight aligned with the mat. Now, like we talked in Tadasana, my feet like to come out just a little bit, like a duck walk, just a little bit. So my right toe is out just a little bit from my heel. My heel's in just a little bit, my toe's out just a little bit. But what I like to focus on in Warrior One is squaring my hips to the front of the mat. And to me, that is the alignment key for Warrior One. And we'll get into that here in just a second of why that is. So take your fingers on your hip pointers. That brings awareness. Now we're talking proprioception. Where are your hips relative to the area around you? So we're trying to align with the front of the mat. That's outside of our body. This is proprioception. Where's my hips aligned? So square your hips right to the front. If you can't square your hips to the front because you've got this huge step back and your hips now, take my hip pointers, they're off to the side, then what I would suggest is shortening up that step. Warrior One is not about how big a step you can take back. Warrior One, to me, is really an alignment issue. I'll tell you this story someday about the Warrior 1, 2, and 3 series. It's a really cool story. Really interesting story. I don't know how cool it is, but it's interesting. So my alignment is straight ahead. My toe is almost straight ahead. And the next thing we do, I should also say that my back knee is straight. My front knee is direct over my ankle. I've got weight on the outside edges of my feet as well as balanced across my the ball of my foot. I'm balanced, the weight on the back of my foot is balanced between my heel and the ball of my foot. Same on the front. My torso is directly in between my front foot and my back foot. And from my hips to my shoulders, I'm in alignment, just like we were in Tadasana, straight up. So my weight's being carried out evenly between the front leg and back leg. But in Warrior One, we often do a little bit of a back bend. So this is where interoception comes in. So I want you to do this. You can either take your hands up or just leave your hands on your hips. Engage your abdominal muscles, a lot. Engage your abs, and then come into a little bit of a back bend. Just look up toward the ceiling. So this is Warrior One. You can raise your hands up if you like. This is Warrior One. We're aligned toward the front of our mat. We're doing a little, not a huge back bend, a little bit of a back bend. Feel what that feels like across from left hip to right hip. Feel what that feels like. And then come down. Step forward with the back foot. Shake that out a little bit. Step your left foot back. Come into a Warrior One pose on the left. Get your feet aligned, width, distance separated. Put your torso not too far forward, not too far back. Nice and straight. Get your balance. Again, engage. Your back leg is straight, so in order to straighten that back leg, you engage your thigh. Weight across your feet. My thigh muscle in front's engaged. Arms come up. Engage your abdominal muscles. That helps to protect your lower back when you do a back bend. Come into a little bit of a back bend. And feel what that feels like. To me, it feels like a really nice, gentle back bend, even across my hips on my back. It's even from the left side to the right side. It's a nice, gentle back bend. And the reason it's even is because my hip pointers, my hips are aligned with the front of the mat. Nice and easy. Okay, now, come up, step forward. We're going to try one more. Now, be careful doing this yourself. You don't want to get hurt doing this, but I want you to do it nice, gentle, and easy so you kind of get the feel of a little different alignment in Warrior One. That way then you can play around with what alignment you like. So we're going to take our right foot back again. This time, take it way back. Really, just almost exaggerate it. Just exaggerate it to the point where you got to rotate your back foot at something like a 30 or 45 degree angle out. Because otherwise you'd be doing crescent lunge because your heel's not going to go down. We're not doing crescent lunge today. We're doing warrior series. So I want weight across my back foot. I want weight on the outside edge of my foot. I want weight on my heel. I want weight on my ball of my foot. Straighten that back knee by engaging that back thigh. Forward knee directly over my ankle. And where are your hip points now? So my hips are angled right out to the side. I cannot square up. If I try to square up to the front, in fact, if I try to square up to the front, it really pinches. I have a lot of compression in my lower right back if I do that. And it doesn't feel good in my thigh of my right leg either. So in order for it to feel good and even between my legs, my hips are out to the side. So now I raise my arms up to the front of the mat. Now engage your abs, come into a back bend. And for me, I'm really crunching, interoception, I'm really crunching my left lower back. It's taken most of the back bend, most of the crunch, my left lower back. Okay, come step forward, we're going to do the other side. Shake that out a minute. To me, that didn't feel good. It didn't feel even across my body. It felt like it was pinching my lower left back. Take your left foot, really extend it back. I just want to exaggerate this pose so you can really feel what it feels like. There's the old dog Tucker. Take that back left foot. You want weight on your heel. So if you're, there he goes, lay down so you can see my feet. We don't want to be in crescent lunge where your feet are directly forward because then your back heel can't go down. You're up on the too much weight on the ball of your foot. So you rotate that back foot out about a 30, 45 degree angle in order to get weight on your heel, in order to get weight on the outside edge of that foot, on the outside edge of your foot, not the arch side, but the outside edge of the back foot. Straighten that back leg, forward knee directly over. Put your fingers on your hip points. Where are they relative to the front of the mat? Try to square them up to the front of the mat. On this side, I can't even square up. I got such a big stance. I cannot even square up to the front of the mat. So now my hips are off this way, but now I can rotate my torso to where my arms, my shoulders are square to the front of the mat. My hips aren't square, but my shoulders are. And then I come up, engage your abdominals, do a little bit of a back bend. And when I do this, man, I'm getting another pinch in my right side this time. And I'm getting more stretch, more work on my right side body than on my left side. And then come forward with that, and then just relax. So we're going to do this one more time with what I like to do with Warrior One. Just take a short step back now. Align your feet as if you were standing in Tadasana. Short step back. And then make sure your hip points feel comfortable aligned with the top of your mat. To me, I could be here all day. This is nice and comfortable. Arms come up. Engage your abs. A little bit of a back bend. Oh, that is so nice. It's just nice and even across my back. Nice and even across my hips. And I come forward. And we're just going to swap feet. My left foot comes back. Your feet are same as you were in Tadasana, but just 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, front knee. over, engage your back quad to straighten that back leg. Where your hips now, nice and centered. Arms come up, engage your abs, a little bit of a back bend, yeah. Reach those fingers right toward the ceiling. You can really get some nice stretch here, and nothing's pinching. Everything is nice and even, at least for me. Maybe your body likes something different, but for me, that is my alignment in Warrior One. So, today we've talked about the alignment in Tadasana with your feet. We've talked about different options for a lateral bend, and whether you bend one knee or the other knee can put the focus of that stretch in one place or another on the outside edge of your body. The other side edge of your body too, we didn't talk about that on a lateral bend. The side that's compressing, is getting pinched. How does that feel when one knee is bent or not? You can practice that. And then we talked about our Warrior One and how big a step back, that's really the key, is how big a step back do you take? And since Warrior One is more about, for me, it's more about the alignment of my hips and the ease and comfort of doing a gentle back bend in Warrior One. I always take a pretty short step back. But you can take a really short step back and still get the benefits out of Warrior One. It's not about trying to get a big stretch in your legs. It's about, to me, it's about alignment, and it's about getting a little bit of a back bend in Warrior One. So anyway, thanks today for your time, for the way I like to think about alignment, and the way I like to think about alignment, just in summary, is whatever feels good in your body is your alignment. So I don't want to tell you how to do it. I want to give you options to do it, and then have you start thinking about interoception and what it is that feels good and what doesn't feel good. And then you'll realize, okay, in Warrior One, this is where my feet need to be comfortable. My foot needs to be fairly short, but maybe yours needs to be longer, wider, narrower, whatever. And same with in Tadasana, your feet. Like that. Okay, anyway, enough talking. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll do this again sometime. May our thoughts be peaceful. May our words be peaceful. And may our heart be peaceful. Namaste.